In a small village in Africa, there lived a boy named Kofi. His family was poor. His father worked hard in the fields, planting maize and beans, while his mother took care of the house and the children. They lived in a small mud house with a grass roof. When it rained, water would leak through the roof, but they never complained. They had enough to get by, but not much more. Kofi was a hard-working boy. He would wake up early every morning to help his father in the fields. After the work was done, he would walk to school, sometimes barefoot, through long, dusty roads. The school wasn't easy for Kofi. The classrooms were small and the desks were old. Sometimes there was no chalk to write on the board, and the teachers had to be creative. But Kofi didn't care about these things. He loved learning. At school, there was one girl who always stood by Kofi. Her name was Amma. She was kind, smart, and beautiful. They had been friends for as long as they could remember. Every day, after school, Amma would walk with Kofi to the village, talking about the things they wanted to do in the future. Amma was different from the other girls. She wasn't interested in gossip or the small things that often distracted other children. She always encouraged Kofi to study hard and follow his dreams. She would say to him, "Kofi, you can do great things. Don't let where you come from stop you from dreaming big." Kofi often found comfort in her words. He knew his family didn't have much money, and sometimes he wondered if he would ever be able to go beyond the village. But every time he felt doubt, Amma would be there, offering him words of encouragement, reminding him that he could be anything he wanted if he worked hard enough. As time passed, Kofi focused more on his studies. He didn't have the best books or the best resources, but he made do with what he had. When other boys were playing, Kofi was reading. When others were resting, Kofi was studying. Amma always helped him with his schoolwork, and together they learned more than they ever thought possible. Despite all of Kofi's hard work, he still faced many struggles. Sometimes there wasn't enough money for school fees, and he thought about quitting. But Amma would never let him give up. She would encourage him, saying, "Your future is bigger than today's problems. Just keep going." Kofi worked hard through secondary school. His grades were among the best in the class, and he was determined to finish his education. But when the time came to graduate, there was a problem. Kofi's family couldn't afford to send him to university. It seemed like his dream of continuing his education would end right there. One day, after Kofi had finished his exams, a man drove into the village. It was rare for a car to come to the village, and Kofi's curiosity got the better of him. He watched as the man stepped out of the car. The man was well-dressed, wearing a nice suit and shiny shoes. He looked out of place in the small village. The man walked over to Kofi, who was sitting by the side of the road. "Are you Kofi?" the man asked. Kofi stood up. "Yes, sir, I am. I've heard about you," the man said, smiling. "I am Mr. Adam, and I run a company in the city. I know you've worked hard in school, and I want to offer you a chance to study abroad. I have a scholarship that will pay for your studies. You have the potential to do great things." Kofi couldn't believe his ears. A scholarship? To study abroad? It felt like a dream. He thought about Amma and how she had always believed in him. She had always told him that if he worked hard enough, good things would happen. "I don't know what to say," Kofi said, feeling overwhelmed. "You don't need to say anything right now," Mr. Adam replied. "Just think about it. This is your chance to change your future." Kofi couldn't say no. He thanked the man and accepted the offer. It felt like his life was about to change forever. Soon, Kofi was on a plane, heading to a new country. The city was nothing like his village. It was busy, noisy, and full of people from all over the world. But Kofi didn't let the newness scare him. He focused on his studies. He worked hard, just like he had always done. His teachers were impressed with his dedication, and soon, Kofi was excelling in his classes. The years passed, and Kofi graduated from university with honors. He got a job at a big company and quickly worked his way up. He saved his money, invested wisely, and learned everything he could about business. In just 5 years, Kofi became a successful businessman. He was a millionaire, living in a big house and driving a fancy car. But even with all his success, Kofi never forgot where he came from. He remembered the struggles of his family and the village that had raised him. And he remembered Amma, the girl who had always believed in him. After 5 years of living abroad, Kofi decided it was time to return home. He wanted to show his family and his village that dreams could come true. He also wanted to thank Amma for all the encouragement she had given him over the years. When Kofi returned to his village, everyone was amazed. They couldn't believe the boy who had left to study abroad had come back as a rich and successful man. But for Kofi, the most important thing was being with the people who had supported him, especially Amma. One evening, as the sun set over the village, Kofi found Amma sitting under the big tree near the road. She was just as beautiful as he remembered. He walked up to her and smiled. "Amma, you always believed in me," Kofi said. "I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for you." Amma smiled back, her eyes shining. "I always knew you could do it, Kofi. You just needed to believe in yourself." Kofi looked in her eyes and took her hand. "I've come back not just to thank you, but to ask you something." Amma's heart skipped a beat. "What is it, Kofi?" "I've built a life for myself, but I want to share it with you," he said, his voice full of sincerity. "Will you marry me?" Amma's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, Kofi. Yes, I will marry you." And so, Kofi, the boy from the poor village, who had dreamed big and worked hard, married the beautiful girl who had always believed in him. Together, they built a life filled with love, success, and happiness. Kofi never forgot the struggles of his past, but he knew that with hard work, love, and encouragement, anything was possible. Their story became a reminder to everyone in the village. No matter where you start, if you stay focused on your dreams, you can achieve anything. A story by Kathy's Heart.